Hello, my name is Thomas Little. I'm a SQL Server DBA. I've been a DBA for over 15 years now, working primarily with SQL Server. And today we're going to talk about SQL Server vNext and SQL Server installation on a Linux platform, which is new to Microsoft. It debuted in a community technology preview about a few weeks ago, maybe over a month ago. And even though it was announced back in March of 2016, access to it was extremely limited to preview customers only. Microsoft is actually going to be supporting many flavors of Linux, such as the Red Hat Enterprise, Ubuntu. I've heard rumors of SUSE. They also support Docker containers. I've even read some articles by people who have put it on Oracle Linux. Even though SQL Server doesn't support Oracle Linux, people are testing it out there too. So, many different flavors of Linux. The best way to describe it is it's kind of blah, in my humble opinion. In just a few weeks that I've explored it, SQL Server on Linux, the interaction, the only thing that I can truly see is SQL Server can run on many different flavors of the operating system, which I believe that's what Microsoft's intent was. Um, I believe the real benefit might come if you want to consolidate databases onto one OS platform like Oracle, Postgres, MySQL. If you want to create an organizational standard within your DBA team, that's where I can probably see the most benefit on that. So let's talk about our agenda. Quick overview, some OS requirements, memory requirements. I'll give you two options. I'll give you two things that you definitely need to do if you're new to Linux, and then things that aren't supported. We'll then go into a demo installation of SQL Server on Ubuntu, and then we'll just do some quick navigation, restore our famous AdventureWorks database, point out a few things that may be odd to you also. Okay, so let's do a quick overview. OS requirements, Red Hat Enterprise 7.2, Ubuntu 16.04. That's what our installation is going to be today. SUSE is coming soon. There has been talk about that. I've heard Oracle Linux, but it's officially not supported. Memory requirements, there's a minimum memory requirement of 3.25 gigs of RAM, so you need to make sure that your machines have at least that. Keep in mind all of the SQL Server requirements for your databases and alike. So, but just remember 3.25 gigs worth of RAM. Bit of a learning curve, some things if you're new to Linux, if you're a SQL Server DBA and you're new to Linux, some things you're going to have to know. You're going to have to know PuTTY. That's probably just a standard amongst all sysadmins. Download it, learn how to use it. It's not just PuTTY, but there's also some other tools with that. You might ask, what's PuTTY? Well, PuTTY is a command line based SSH client and allows you to remote into a Linux box. And you're going to need that. As a DBA, you're going to need access to the file systems and alike remotely, and PuTTY is going to be the way to do that. Go pick up a Linux book. Go to your favorite website for tutorials. I've learned it through some of the SAM Teach Yourself books and with sysadmins. So those have been fantastic books. I have a number of Linux books that I've learned. I've used in Linux for a number of years now. So go pick up your favorite Linux book or go to a few websites for tutorials. Let's talk about what's not supported. I thought of four major areas within SQL Server that everyone focuses on as a DBA. The database engine, high availability, security, and services. Right now, full text searching and replication, not available. Probably a DBA favorite, multiple instances on SQL Server or on Windows, not supported. On Linux, maintenance plans and extended store procedures aren't supported. For high availability, always on in database mirroring. Even though database mirroring is deprecated, it's still available in some in versions of SQL Server. Right now, it is not supported in SQL Server on Linux. Windows authentication is currently not supported. You have to use SQL Server authentication. We'll go through that today, and then some of the services aren't supported. Agent isn't supported. The browser isn't supported. SQL browser. Analysis services, reporting services, integration services, and then MDS. Those things are not supported right now. This is a community technology preview number 1. There have been talk in other previews and even in the release if some of these things will be available. So we'll have to keep on top of the technology previews to see what comes off of this list, what Microsoft is actually working on. Okay, so let's go through and do a demo. I have a installation of Ubuntu already started, and it's already configured. During the installation, I was asked to set up a asked to set up an administrative account. I already did that. We'll go through that in just a minute. So that part's already done. Now we're going to do our installation of SQL Server. You'll have here is my little handy guide of some of the commands that need to be run to get that started. So I'm going to open up PuTTY here. There we go. And this is our server name that we're going to connect to. So we're going to load this up. Again, please make sure that go down, download PuTTY, learn it, and use it. Now remember, at the beginning of this, I was telling you that I created an administrative account. I did this. This is equivalent to a service account, whether it's a domain or a local. In Windows, I created a Linux service account that's local to this machine, and then it is an administrator. So we're going to be, so that's that. Okay. So you can see here that I have a Ubuntu 16.04, and that's the supported version of Linux. So I want to do one thing on my Linux installation is need to remove a log file from our packages. Now this is not needed as part of the installation. This is just for my distribution. Okay, so let's get started on our installation. Now there is one thing to note. My virtual server here with Ubuntu is connected to the internet, and the commands that we're running are going to download things directly from Microsoft's or Ubuntu site. Now, if you have your Linux machine connecting directly to the internet, you can use these commands. If you do not, my suggestion will be to talk to your sysadmin and make sure that they can download those for you and put them on a repository that your machine can access. So please keep that in mind. You need to make sure, if you're following this demonstration, that your machine is connected directly to the internet, and assuming that you can download some of these packages. Okay. Alright, so first things first, we're going to do an import of the public keys from Microsoft's site. Now if you do this download, be careful. You may be asked, you'll have to check right around here. There might be a screen that asks you for your password. It'll look like it's sitting there and getting stuck. I've run into that a few times. Make sure you just type in your password real quick, and then you'll see the rest of this screen show up. So that's happened once or twice to me before, so please keep that in mind. Alright, next we are going to register with the SQL Server Ubuntu repository. Run this command. Perfect. Next command, let's clear that up. And now our next command will be to update the repository on our machine. There you go. And this is what I was referring to. There's a lot of packages that are being downloaded onto my machine right now so that they can be so that they're ready to do the installation. So again, make sure your machine is connected to the internet. Okay, so now our keys are downloaded, our packages are registered, we've updated our local machine. Next is to install SQL Server. So you're going to run this command right here. I'm going to highlight it here, just in case you're watching that. Okay. And we're going to click OK. Again, we're going out to the internet, downloading packages, installing them, has a lot of prerequisites that need to happen. You know, I kind of personally like the way the direction Microsoft is heading, because I think it allows developers and administrators to kind of break away from working on just Windows and become operating system agnostic. The one platform approach, the one kind of operating system or platform approach is a great turnaround. And now you can run it on Windows, Linux, and Azure. So, you know, I'm actually really excited about doing this installation. While this is going on, remember I told you in the slides that we were going to be doing a restore of our AdventureWorks database. What we need to do before we do that is actually get the backup file from AdventureWorks over to our Linux box. So, with that being said, we actually have a command prompt here. And as you can see, I've already downloaded the BAK file for the AdventureWorks database. So what we need to do is we need to get that over to the Linux box. Now, I stated before, download PuTTY. With PuTTY comes a command line utility to do a copy from a Windows machine over to a Linux box. You don't need to do this for this installation, but if you're installing SQL Server on Linux and you want to get some database files over there, or you want to do some restores, you're going to want to pay attention to this part of the file. So pscp c:\temp r.bak svc mssql srvr. Okay, so let me explain this command a little bit. pscp, that's our copy command. That's going to be available when you download PuTTY and you install it. We are copying anything that is a BAK file using our account, svc mssql, that's the administrative account I told you before, on the server srvr mssql 04 : temp directory. So from temp to temp. And we're going to enter our password. Okay, so that's going to get started. So let's go back to our installation screen now. And our installation is now finished. So SQL Server is now installed. Now it's not running yet. There is some configuration and setup that we need to do afterwards. And there's a tool or another setup command that you need to run afterwards. So we're going to do this. It actually displays it right here. You need to run this command, and what this does is it's going to set up SQL Server for us. It's going to ask us about the licensing terms, the SA account, do we want to install it as a service, do we want to start it at boot up. It's going to ask us those type of things. We're going to click yes to the license agreement. We're going to put in a password. Okay, we're setting our SA account. I actually typed in the wrong password there, so I retyped it. Now we're setting up the SA account. Let's go back and check on our copy. Alright, good, so our copy is finished. That is excellent. We'll double check to make sure that it's there in just a minute after we finish setting up the SA account. Okay. Alright, now we're going to start SQL Server as a service. So again, do you wish to start SQL Server now? Yes. And do we want to set it at boot? Yes. Alright, now that we've set it at boot, we're going to make sure that it's running. So system control status, MS-SQL-server, what this is going to tell us is if the service is running. So you can see here, here's SQL Server service. It's the database engine. It is loaded and enabled and is actively running right now. It's been running for 20 seconds. Okay, fantastic. So we also copy this backup command. So let's clear our screen here and just ensure that our backup is here. And yes, it is. Okay. Alright, so that is the installation of that is the installation of SQL Server on Linux. We will now do our navigation portion of it. Okay, so finished our installation. Now let's connect to our new installation of SQL Server. Now I already have a management studio already set up. We're already started, and we're going to do our restore of our famous AdventureWorks database. First, let's go through and connect. Type in the password for our SA account. Okay. Now here you can see not really much of a difference. You know, there's not really any wow to it. Let's go through some of the properties real quick and take a look at see if anything's changed there. You can probably see right off to the bat that the operating system platform changed. You can now see Linux and Ubuntu, the operating systems. If you had Red Hat, of course, it would say Red Hat. We talked about something a little bit odd in our presentation. So if you look at the root drive, everything, it still says C. So in Linux, the root drive is actually a backslash. In Windows, it's C:. You're still going to see that C:, within Management Studio and probably within some command lines where you need to reference a file path. They may change that in the coming releases, but right now for Community Technology Preview 1, that's still there. During the restore process of the AdventureWorks database, I'll kind of show you that too. If you go to the memory and processor, not much has changed here from the look and feel of it. Security and connections is the same way. Remember that Windows authentication mode is not available in Linux right now. Database settings, all still the same. You are going to see that C:// in the data, log, and backup directories. That's the root drive. Again, they may change it going forward. There is no C:// within Linux, so we'll see what they have to say. Advanced settings. So there's not really many advanced settings new to this technology preview that I've seen from the example here. I will tell you the file stream is not available at this time. And I also believe, full text searching is not available at this time. So you might see some properties in here for full text upgrade options and file streaming and the like. Those options aren't available currently right now in the technology preview. And then of course our permissions are all the same. So everything's still the same from what I could see. There's a couple nuances for it, but again, it's the technology preview 1, so they're going to add new things later on. Alright, so let's restore our AdventureWorks database. Do something very simple. You could see here that I specified the C:temp. This is where we copied our AdventureWorks backup to. Remember, when you're dealing with file systems right now within SQL Server on Linux, you have to reference that C colon backslash. The other thing that I've noticed is you have to use the move command within your restores. When you do backups that are on Windows and you're restoring them to SQL Server on Linux, the move command seems to be key. I would assume it's because of the different file systems. Microsoft pointed it out in a blog about SQL Server on Linux. It's one of the things that they know. They'll look to fix that, but you have to use the move command in order for your backup to work. So let's go ahead and restore our database. Should be really quick. Let's connect to our database here. Okay, and it's now executing. Let's go to messages, going through the database upgrade, and boom, there we go. Okay, so that's our restore the database. We have our SQL Server installed. Follow this tutorial. Go through and do the installation a number of times. There's not really much to it, but feel comfortable with it. I definitely recommend feeling comfortable with Linux and going through that. You're going to have to do that. Understand how the packages work and the like. So that's our video. Thank you very much for joining and appreciate it.